I do want to bring into the conversation National President of the National Federation of Federal Employees, Randy Erwin. Randy, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I know you represent over 100,000 members in the federal workforce. What kind of conversations are happening right now amongst members as they're working without pay?
Yeah, they're worried. They're most first and foremost. You got to remember these are middle class workers doing great work for the American people. And because of this shutdown, because Congress can't do its job, can't get along and reach the compromise necessary, getting a bill that will pass Congress. Because of that, they're not getting a paycheck. Starting, let's see, tomorrow now, it'll be tomorrow when they see a reduced paycheck. This pay period that they're about to get paid for happened, a few days were during the shutdown, so they got a partial paycheck. But this is the last pay that they're going to see for weeks. We don't know how long this is going to go on. They're really, really worried. They're not going to be, a lot of folks aren't going to be able to feed their families. They're not going to be able to get the medicine that they need. They're worried about childcare. It doesn't need to be this way in this country.
Yeah, there's so many different impacts that you might not think about at first, kind of thought about this. What kind of people are a member of this organization? Who are you representing? What sectors are they in?
Yeah, we're the National Federation of Federal Employees, America's first federal employee union. We're big in the Department of Defense. We got about 50,000 people that are keeping our military ready. We got the workers, healthcare professionals at 50 different VA hospitals across the country. So the care of the American veteran is in the hands of NEFI IM members, the people I represent. And then we got folks at land management agencies, the Forest Service. Think about wildland firefighters putting those fires out west. We're big in the Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Geological Survey, Passport Agency, and about 35 other agencies across the country. All these folks providing essential services for the American people. They're the backbone of this country. And by the way, 1/3 of all federal employees are veterans. Don't forget that.
And you mentioned there's this concern, and morale is a big point of this because obviously when you're distracted at work, you can't put kind of the best foot forward. Are there concerns future? Because we heard Vice President J.D. Vance potentially talk about layoffs coming, that these wouldn't just be temporary, that these might become permanent. Is there a concern among the workforce, among members there about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, this administration has, from the very beginning, they said on the campaign trail that they wanted to be punitive to federal employees. There's no reason for that, and now it's continuing in this administration. Around this shutdown, they said this administration is saying that they're going to have to fire federal employees during this shutdown. First of all, that's illegal. They can't do that. It's a violation of the Anti-Deficiency Act. You can't, the administration can't spend money that Congress doesn't appropriate it. So they can't even do the things that they're saying, or they're indicating that they're going to do something illegal. And so, I just can't believe. Then just a couple days ago, Trump came out and said, what did he say here? That he wasn't going to provide back pay. A couple years ago, or 2019, legislation was passed to make sure that federal employees get back pay after a shutdown ends. Well, Trump says we're not necessarily going to do that. And I'm going to pick and choose who gets back pay. That's despicable. It's illegal. It's also unconstitutional because the president has a duty to faithfully execute the laws of this country. And he's indicating that he doesn't intend to do that.
And you mentioned that. He said it kind of depends on which federal employees. And you mentioned also the federal law dating back to the last shutdown in 2018, 2019. Are there any channels that you can do to make sure that these individuals that are going to work will eventually get paid once the government reopens?
All the president's got to do is follow the Constitution. The law is very clear that they get back pay after a shutdown. Now, think about it. Think about a company that you worked for. Okay, let's say Fox News. Let's say your executive board couldn't get along and pass the budget, and then they say, you know what, we're going to start firing people. Just fire people because they can't agree on a budget. It's ridiculous. The federal employees are hardworking people. Most people don't know 85% of federal employees aren't in D.C. They're spread all throughout the country, doing great with your friends and neighbors, doing great work for the American people. And, for them to be targeted in the way that they are makes no sense. It's un-American, and I really wish it would stop.
And you mentioned tomorrow is really the first day that people will go without a paycheck. Federal employees that are working that won't get paid, it won't hit their bank accounts. What's the advice to members right now? And will that advice potentially change if there's no paycheck and people do need to provide for their families?
Well, there's not much that the union can do when it comes to a thing like that. You know, if you get the carpet pulled out from under you financially, you know, think about it. I mean, how do most people respond when they get furloughed, get laid off? And when the paycheck stops, the pain begins at home. And so that's what every federal employee, by the way, every active military person in this country is dealing with the same predicament. And, you know, it doesn't need to be this way. Congress needs to get in a room, put the decision makers there, have some real meaningful discussions, and get a spending bill done for the American people.
Yeah, and I have a couple more questions before I let you go here, because you mentioned the dating back to 2018, 2019, and you were just kind of just in the national president role for a few years. Does this moment feel different? Last one lasted 35 days. We're at day number 9. Does this feel different? Does it feel like it could reach that 35-day point?
I think it absolutely can, and that's what we're preparing for. You know, the main reason is the cooperation that needs to happen is not happening right now. I'm really concerned about Speaker Johnson. If you just look at the House calendar, it will show you that they have no interest in ending this shutdown. They passed their CR 12 days before the shutdown began, and then they kind of skipped town. And then they came back for just a couple of days there, and then put Congress back in recess again. And even while they're there, they say, hey, there's nothing to discuss. We did our job. And, you know, that amounts to Speaker Johnson taking his ball and going home. And the truth was, if they did do their job, a bill would be signed by the president and this government would be open, and it's not. And so, you know, it's a little bit preposterous to think that strategy is going to continue. And it's just not going to work. And so that's why Congress needs to come back, decision makers in a room, do your job, and pass a spending bill, open this government back up.
And you mentioned the House not being in session. The Senate is trying to pass this continuing resolution right now. They're the chamber we're really focusing on. But you mentioned there's a lot of finger pointing taking place on Capitol Hill. In terms of your position, do you think the Republicans, the Democrats, which side is more to blame?
I blame the institution. I do blame the institution. You know, the breakdown. These people need to be able to get along enough to be able to have some meaningful discussions. You can't communicate via text message, via press release or social media or something. These people need to have a little bit of collegiality and be able to pass appropriations bill in a respectable amount of time. You know, living CR to CR, shutdown to shutdown. One, it's not good for federal employees. It's not good for the American people. But we're not getting good outcomes because of this. We're not getting good legislation. It's not thoughtful. And bottom line is they're not doing the work of the American people. Put politics aside, put the country first, do your jobs, get along, and start, getting spending bills done in a appropriate amount of time.
All right, my last question, Randy, before I let you go, because I would be remiss not to ask you, because you were passionately speaking yesterday outside while it was raining, an umbrella be damned there. You were just kind of standing in the rain, people trying to help you out, very passionate speech. What did you say yesterday, and why was it so important for you to come out and speak in that way, to stand up for the union that you represent?
Mainly, it's important that I channel the emotion of the membership that I represent. I got 110,000 federal workers out there that are really hurting, that have been treated like dirt by this administration. It doesn't have to be that way. And, you know, now that their jobs are being threatened, their livelihood has been cut off, and then they're threatening to not give them back pay even, so there's even more insecurity. They're very, very angry. And so, really, we want Congress and the White House to work. We want to work with all of those institutions. We actually work very well on both sides of the aisle with Congress. But our folks are really mad at how they've been treated all year. And I wanted to channel that. And that's what I did.
All right, very good. I just want to ask you about that. Randy, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Great insight. Day number 9 of the shutdown, real impacts on real Americans. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, thanks so much. All right, great conversation there as always. As so many people potentially going without a paycheck starting tomorrow, you could expect more sick calls. We've seen that in the TSA, the airline industry, those impacts far and wide.